All right, this is another purple card video. In this video, I'm going to do a neon graphics installation on a Traxxas modified body. Now, you should have already watched the Start Here video as well as the first Start Here purple card video, which tells you what tools you need to use, how to prep your body. Those videos are important, and the reason they're important is because I'm not going to go over them again in this video. I'm going to jump right into my installation. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, what tool is that? You need to go back and watch those other videos. If you need to know where those videos are, please feel free to email me if you can't find them in the playlist on YouTube. So one of the things that I offer is a service where on some bodies, like the Traxxas Modifieds and or the Salvus bodies, I will do the installation. Now on the Traxxas Modifieds, I actually have to do a coat of paint on the back side. So that's part of the service. That said, this was a brand new Traxxas Modified body. I've gone ahead and give it a flash coat of black on the back, which is the best color. Again, why is it the best color? Go back to the Start Here video and I explain all that in depth. So the first thing I need to do is take the film off. Now, this is quite boring. Anybody can do this, I get it. So I'm gonna talk while I do this. So you're probably wondering what the importance of this video is when I already have a video doing a Traxxas modified graphic install. Well, on those videos, we're using a different material than we're using here. This material is neon, of course, but it's been printed with a UV printer. Now, if you've already watched the Start Here video for the purple card, which is UV printed products, you will have learned that the UV prints can be a bit more brittle to work with than a standard graphic kit. However, the benefit of the UV print is that it can lay down some amazing colors that a standard printer that we use cannot. So it does come in handy. And the benefits you get from those UV prints far outweigh the little bit of excess time it may take you because you have to be a bit more careful with the graphics while installing. And you end up with a much nicer product. So I'm just going to go over this. I'm removing all of the extra plastic. And full disclosure, this body is actually an order. A customer placed this order. They have no idea I'm doing this body on video. But when I saw this order come through, I thought that's the perfect one I need to do for a video. You know, it didn't have the customer's business on the side with a logo or anything like that. And it was just a great candidate. So I've already gone through and I have removed all of the plastic. I'm going to throw this plastic away and then we're going to jump right into it. I'm taking my tack cloth and I'm just getting any pieces of dust that are left on this body. Usually when you take the clear plastic off, you create a lot of static and that can leave behind some pretty large pieces of dust. So I'm just going through and I'm getting that. Little tiny pieces really aren't going to hurt anything. You don't need to sit here and, you know, be surgical about it. Just get the big stuff. Now on this particular body, because I do a lot of these installations, I do have a special tool that only I have. And that is this ugly piece of foam right here that holds this body in position for me like this so that it makes it easier for me to do lots of installations. If you feel like you want something like this, you know, you can probably wrap a towel around something, but you're going to have the benefit of the body probably being on the chassis already. I don't have that benefit. I can't keep every chassis here in the studio, so I tend to make these foam blocks that support the body for me. So if you're wondering what this ugly thing is, that is exactly what this ugly thing is. All right. Now, this is a UV print, but look how beautiful this thing is. Hopefully the camera is getting the neon out of this because a lot of times it's only something the human eye can really appreciate. It kind of has a glow to it in real life, whereas the camera kind of distorts that glow. Now, like I talked about on the Start Here video with purple card holders, a lot of the UV prints are punched out for you. And by punched out, what I mean is you can very carefully take your hand and remove each piece from the main vinyl layer, just like this. You don't have to, but it can help, especially if you have a complicated setup where you don't know where all the graphics go. So let's get this sort of in frame here enough. So I punched this guy out. Of course, I have a little piece of the plastic left over here. Boy, those pieces of plastic have a lot of static on them. They just cling to everything. So here we go, right? I was able to punch this out. Now, the punch out is about 1/8 of an inch outside of the master cut. So just to illustrate that, I will take the you can see I'm taking that 1/8 inch strip off, and now what you're left with is this inset final cut graphic. It's got 1/8 of an inch of die cut around it, and now you can take this and put them, and you know exactly where they go. This is one of the benefits of my new machine that prints with the UV. It's got an industrial cutter on it, and what that industrial cutter can do is really get down through that paper backer, cut things out like that, makes your life a lot easier, okay? I think for the first thing I'm gonna do is prop the back of this up so that you guys can see how I'm working. Now, I'm not gonna go through and I'm gonna punch all these out. That's a choice you can make when you get your own kit. If you wanna punch them out and you like that idea, go for it. When you punch them out, don't rush it. UV prints are prone to tearing a lot easier. So a standard print done with solvent ink, when you try to tear it, it'll stretch a little bit before it tears. Not so much with a UV machine. Now, where there is no UV ink over the material, like this is the base neon orange material, you can treat that like a normal piece of vinyl. If you've ever handled vinyl on a car wrap before, you know, you can try and tear it and it'll stretch a lot before it finally shears. Anywhere you see ink, you need to be more careful. So when you punch these out, just be careful. Take your time, okay? So why don't we go ahead and do this roof line? I'm gonna prop this up so it's easier to see. Okay, so because this is a customer's build, at times I am gonna have to reach over here so that I can do a good job and see what I'm doing. I want to apologize for that in advance. This isn't a studio thing where I'm just gonna take them off after I do the video. I'm actually shipping this out later today. So excuse that. I hope you can take away from it still with me reaching over like that, what we're doing. So again, I'm gonna say this a lot. If you have the purple card, you've got a UV print, just be more careful when you lift the graphics off. Be strategic about it. As we go through lifting these off, I will show you certain areas where you really need to have the alarm bell going off, where you're lifting this off and be more careful. The only time you need to be careful with these really is either A, when you're lifting them off the release liner, or B, when you're resetting them. In other words, you put it on, you don't like the position, and you take it back off and put it back on. Those are the two times you have to be careful. Beyond that, once it's on the machine, you can go race, you can do whatever you want, and they're actually tougher than a standard solvent print. This customer opted for a gloss finish, and the machine actually came down and put the gloss finish on while in the machine. So you can see it prints matte. You can see the black up here is matte. And then you can see the gloss borders where the gloss extends past the cut paths on my logos. Easier to see up here because you got some black, not as easy to see down here. So I'm gonna set this stuff aside and let's go after this top piece here. So I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife and I'm just gonna get underneath a corner. Again, you could punch this out, but I'm not going to. And I'm pulling the corner back like this. And you can see, you don't got to get crazy with how careful you are. I mean, it's not going to shatter in your hands. You just can't torque on it. Give it the old heave-ho like this. You just can't do that. So, I'm handling it just like any other material, okay? And I'm going to, now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to lay it down crooked on purpose, okay? So I'm going to lay it down. I'm not happy with that, okay? It's been seconds, right? So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and what I'm not going to do, right? I'm not going to pull this way where I'm torquing on that little tiny strip by that hole. It's a weak spot, right? It's going to probably shear right there if I do it just right. So what I need to do is take it by the meat of it like this and just be cautious when you pull back. And there you have it. It comes right off. No problem. I think it's really important to show you how I work with these purple card UV prints in real life so that when you get the product, you don't have as much anxiousness, you know, when you're reading the card and it says, oh, it's brittle and you have to, no, it's not like that. You just have to think about things when you take them off the paper and you take them off the car. So let's get this thing down. Got a little piece of dust right here. I just want to get off with my tack cloth. I am going to have to reach across here a little bit. I apologize. I just want to get this right for the customer. So what I'm going to do is align the front edge and the holes. And once you get that front edge and these holes aligned, you know, logic tells you as long as I smoothly go down, the rest has to align. Otherwise, it's going to be my fault, right? It's my template's fault. Felt tip squeegee. Again, not going to get into the tools because they're in the other videos that I referenced. And I'm going to hold this up like this and just go down like that. Once you do that, it was a very soft. You notice I barely pushed on it. And you're happy and there's nothing catastrophic going on with alignment. You can come back and put it on just like this. Now with the UV prints, the machine actually lays down ink on top of the vinyl. Whereas solvent prints, especially if you bought from me before, you got a solvent print, kind of absorbs into the vinyl. Well, why is that important? Well, the reason is because you can actually take your finger across this and you can feel it. It's got a texture to it. Those ink layers on UV purple carded prints build up. And that's what is able to give you this beautiful white. Look how dense that white is on that neon. I had some people in the past say, hey, you know, I love my graphic kit, but, you know, it was printed on neon and the white almost looks like a cream color, or it almost looks like, you know, it took on some of the orange. Back then, when I was starting into these neon films, the only technology I had at my disposal were solvent prints. Solvent can lay down white, but boy, it takes a long time, number one. Number two, the whites absorb into the vinyl. It doesn't lay on top of the vinyl like a paint layer. So you really have to lay down pass after pass after pass of white. And even after 5 passes of white in an hour of printing this tiny little $50 graphic kit for an RC car, yes, it's white, but it's got a cream color to it. So I decided to invest in this new technology and it got me the whites that I need. The only drawback is you just have to be careful when you handle the material. Now, you can use your wrap glove, which I talk about in the previous videos. I'm assuming most of you aren't going to buy a wrap glove, so I'm going to just wrap my finger around this shop cloth that's, well, it's not really a shop cloth, right? It is purchased from Harbor Freight, but it's not the red ones, obviously, that you use to sop up oil. It's the softer version. And now I can just go around and smooth out all the air. So I got off track a little bit there when I talked about the texture, right? What's actually happening here is this is air egress technology film. There's little channels on the back side that let the air come out. Because it's textured, the air can sit in there a little bit easier because it's kind of lumpy. And that's what, you know, when you're taking the squeegee across, the squeegee is bridging across all those valleys and ridges of ink layers, right? So that's why this is coming in handy, because this soft cloth can get down in those layers where the squeegee can't. Now, that's not to say the squeegee is not important. You need to do that first pass with the squeegee because that's going to lay you down linearly flat across the entire top surface. Once you get it down, then you can take the cloth and go across. So now I've already done the roof line, right? You saw how easy that was. Really, it's just not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this front piece here. Now, I'm not going to do this entire machine because a lot of it's, you know, a duplicity. We're going to do this side. I'm not going to do this side on camera. I am going to circle back at the end because I want you to see the final product, but I'm just going to go through this. I am going to do one side here because I know those are pretty difficult, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll pull off this big front hood line. In this case, I'm going to pull off the outside band. Just to show you, you've got different ways that you can actually manage this material. You could have punched it out, then taken this band off. You could have punched it out and not taken the band off and just pulled the whole thing off. I think it's best to take the band off because then you can, you know, manage the graphic a little bit easier. And now I can easily get my X-Acto knife underneath the edge. And we're going to pull up, leave the holes behind. And while I'm doing this, I also want to talk about, just because this is a neon kit doesn't mean you won't get a UV printed kit if you order an RC graphic kit, especially for racing. The Basher style machines are not UV printed because they get a super thick laminate to protect them and make them last, you know, from the crashes and things like that. For those are like really big, heavy machines like an X-Max. And that heaviness, you know, when it lands upside down, you need some more protection. For the RC racers, what we actually need is lightness, right? We don't want to overload the graphics with this laminate that we don't really need because it's not a heavy machine. You're not going 80 miles an hour and doing jumps. So we change materials. Most of my racing RC kits will be converted to this purple card UV style print. So again, just because it's neon doesn't mean you don't need to watch this film. This is a great film and should be taken, you know, with a grain of salt as far as exactly how I'm putting each piece down. What you want to take away from this is the procedural, how I handle the graphics, how easy it is to lift them off if you're careful without tearing them, things like that. Again, I'm going to come in here, and what I like to do with this one is I like to line up the 4 holes, these 4 small holes here, because I know that once I get them lined up, I am good to go everywhere else. So I line up those 4 small holes. I'm just going to let that lay there so that I can kind of tack these 2 holes down here with my finger. And then once I do that, again, the squeegee is good because it gives you that long bridge to help you get this down. And there it goes. Now, again, here, see this little appendage right here I'm holding up? Very susceptible to tearing in this corner with the UV print, okay? So just be careful with it. That's all it really is. We're going to put it down, finish it with my finger. And again, once it's down, you don't need to worry anymore. It's only when it's not adhered to this Lexan. It doesn't have that foundation of the Lexan to support it. You don't need to worry about tearing anymore once it's down, okay? Now, if you were to have to lift this back off, what you don't want to do is start in this little tiny appendage and lift it off, you know, because you're going to probably end up stretching it too much and tearing it in this corner here. You probably want to start up here on the meat of it, right? And go this way and only go as far as you need to. If you have a big, you know, lump here and you just need to straighten it out, you don't need to take the whole thing off. Just come up to here and then reset it back down. It's really not that hard. So again, I'm using this just to get me down, not perfectly all the way, but just enough. And there it is. You see how easy that was? Let's take a look. Real nice. Very, very nice. It flows well. I got to go back to my cloth here. Here's my cloth. Wrap it around my finger. And I'm just going to finish it off. Again, like I mentioned, you can feel the texture. You can really feel the quality and texture of the print. So you have to get the air out of all those little texture channels. And that's just as simple as taking the cloth and going like that. Okay, why don't we go ahead and we'll do this side. See if I can get this out of the way. We go ahead and we'll get this side here. I think on this one I will unpunch it. Again, be careful when you unpunch it. You don't want to tear anything, okay? So here's this side, and it's going to be a little oversized here because, you know, I have that 1/8 inch bleeder still on there, but it's going to go just like that. So now I'm going to take my strip off and discard of it, and we're left with the graphic itself on the liner. I take it off carefully. I am going to have to reach over a little bit here. I apologize. Find something on the graphic that is distinct, like a cutback or something that you know, like I chose this little horned edge right here to line it up. And there we have it. This one is so narrow, I can just use my fingers, right? Easy. All right, why don't we move on to something a little bit more challenging like this side piece? The rest of it is quite easy. I mean, you're talking about a pillar right here. I will go over the pillar because it has to fold. This piece is simple, but eventually here I'm going to speed up the film so that you can see the final product. Why don't I go ahead and I'll demonstrate again the benefit of punching this side out. For those of you who have never done an installation before, I think this makes you feel a bit more at ease because, you know, you can get to see exactly where the piece is going to go. Okay, so here we go. I punched it out, and obviously, you know, we're going like this. Now, here's where you can experiment a little if this is your first time. This is going to fold back here. So, you know, in the past, you'd take the graphic off, and here you are, you know, your first time, and you're holding this graphic up, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it has to go like that. Well, now you can take it off, and you can kind of plan ahead. You can even take these, you know, little pieces out in the middle here where the bolts go and, you know, see through if you really want to. But yeah, I'm going to take the strip off. Now, I should probably cover something here really quick about this particular body, and this happens on a lot of RC bodies. This body is obviously vacuum formed. We all know what that probably is. But back here, they're hand trimmed. So they come off the vacuum form and there's some excess Lexan, and somebody is hand trimming this stuff here. On this actual sheet, there are notes that tell you, hey, you're probably going to have to back trim this graphic once on because the bodies are all different. A human has come in here and cut this, and they never cut it the same every time, okay? So there is going to be either a little bit of underhang or overhang on this back edge on this model, and you'll have to work with that by just giving it the old trimmerooski. Sometimes if there's an underhang, I've actually trimmed the Lexan instead of the graphic because I want that nice clean edge. All right, see if I can get this body set where I want it. I think what I'm going to actually do is swing around to the other side and put it on from the front. This is the most difficult piece, so I want to get it right for the customer. Here we are. I'm going to, I guess, try and recenter this here. Oh, perfect. Yep, there we go. All right. Now, let's take it off, right? We'll do this together. Sometimes it can help to lay the graphic actually down and take the release liner off like this. Personal preference. See, no problem, okay? What I want to do now is I do need to take this straggler out, and I'll just stick that on the table. It's not a huge deal. I'm going to take my tack cloth and give this the one final over. There we go. Now, on this particular model, what I like to do is align the holes. If you get those holes aligned, you're good to go. On other models that are bigger like this, on the really big stuff, I don't do UV prints usually. If it's neon, yeah, I'll do it. But usually I'll do solvents because it can be a little bit easier to install. But everybody's different, right? So I think the takeaway here is find a distinctive aspect that you can align. In this case, we've got these 3 hole cutouts, right? That go here, here, and here. You get those lined up, you're pretty much good to go. So let's give it a shot. So you notice I'm holding back with my wrist, and if you need help, have somebody help you. I'm holding this back for now. I don't want it to touch anything. All I really want to do is just align that one there. Now I'm going to use my thumb and make sure that this vinyl travels across here without jumping around. I'm going to align the second one and align the third one, just like that. Now I've got a little bit of a kink here. So here, that's good because I want to show you guys how to reset a big piece like this while being careful. You're going to start back here at the meat, and we're just going to pull it back like this, and I can work that kink down. This is holding it for me already, so this hole is going to align up automatically, okay? Honestly, I'm done. That's it. What I want to do now is grab my squeegee again, which is right here. We'll get back in camera. I can work from here. Now this is a single axis turn. It's gonna come up like so. Perfect. And now we can start laying down. I don't have any more major ripples, right? By major, I mean you can visually see like a lump or something like that. There's a little ripple right here. That'll go right down. There it is. You can see my foam doing its job for me, right? If you don't have this on something and you're trying to push down, you got nothing to push back against. You see that? See how it's just flexing? You want to have something to push back against when you're doing your final squeegee down. Otherwise, you're not going to hear the vinyl correctly, and you're probably going to get some major air pockets. So here we go. It's a little tiny strip that was up here, and I just wanted to do that with my hand. I don't want to get the big squeegee involved and end up tearing it or stretching it even more by getting it caught on these little felt fibers. So it goes down beautifully because it's this really high-end air egress film. Here we go. And you can already see on the back, on this one, we've got an underhang, right? Now I have some ripples back here I want to work out, and I'm going to introduce some heat. And I'm thankful that I have those ripples because I want to show you how to use heat on these UV prints. You do not need a lot. That's how you use heat on these UV prints. Okay, so my heat gun's going to start up here, and I'm going to hold it way back and put my hand here. It should feel half of what probably a blow dryer feels like. Very, very little heat. It really reacts quickly. Just give it a little warm up, and it melts like butter. If you go to push it down and it kinks on you and you can feel it just turned into butter, you got too much heat. Give it a second, which I did do just right now. Let it cool down and it'll harden back up, and it can be a little bit easier to work with. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull this back just a little bit to help me get this kink out. Sometimes it can help if your Lexan is flexible enough. You can bend the Lexan like this. So let's say you have a kink right here and there's a little ridge, right? And it needs to stretch out to let the ridge set down. It can help to actually bend the Lexan like this so the vinyl has to travel a longer distance around that circumference, and it'll go right down. And then when you let go of that bend, the vinyl will stay in position, okay? So this piece is done. That's it. Right there. Beautiful. Now, I'm not going to get into cutting. You can cut this excess material off up here on the Lexan with a pair of scissor shears. That's not a big deal. Here, it's overhanging a little bit, so you can just take your knife, and I like to run it like this, and off it comes. There it is. Again, this top piece, scissor shears. Now, I do like to keep my graphics backspaced about a 1/16 off the edge. And the reason is if you take your finger and you run it up this edge like this, you can feel the graphic, right? But if you backspace it like it is, like right here, you can see it's got a little bit of a backspace. Well, now anything that's rubbing up against that Lexan has no chance of hitting the graphic, right? So I really like doing that. If you want to take the time to do that, you know, I use the old finger trick where I run the finger on the edge of the blade and go like this. You know, with the UV prints, if you just score it a little bit, you can do a nice clean tear back. And I think that's what causes the UV prints to want to tear easily, is that the type of ink and the type of gloss clear, the matte clear that it lays down, its molecular structure allows it to tear sort of linearly. If you ever take packing tape on a box and it's really, you know, you're trying to like stretch a piece of packing tape, it's impossible. But if you put just a little bit of a cut slice in a piece of clear packing tape, man, you can tear that thing all day long, right? This kind of acts the same way, but it's much tougher to tear than the packing tape, but the reaction is the same. All right. I think what we'll do is we'll do this pillar next, because I want to show you guys how to flex a graphic over the edge of the pillar. So I am going to, again, I think I'll punch this out really quickly. Here it is. And Again, the beauty of the punch out is now I can see where things go. Now there is an overhead view here to give you, an idea, but boy, this makes it easier. I mean, you take this over here and obviously, it doesn't work. So we know that this goes here and we can test it. We can see how it's going to fit. It's an awesome, awesome advantage to have these things die cut like this. So I'm going to take it off and we're going to rock and roll here. Let's see. This goes like this. And all I'm going to need here is just my finger to do the work. This bends around here. I do not want to bend or do anything over here until I run my finger across the back side of the bend and work my way over. Okay, that is key because you don't want to get this little ridge here. If you were just, adhere this and then come over here and say, oh, I'm going to push this down, it's not going to be right. You got to work it down all the way from one side to the other, generally speaking. So here we go. And that piece is done. I know a lot of you guys probably are looking at this and saying, oh, he's making this way more difficult than it needs to be. Well, I understand that. And I might be to some people, but to other people, it's not like that. I get 100 emails a week from people that just need a little bit of help. And I can tell that they've never handled something like this before. So for those of you who are looking at this and saying, oh, I get it. I do. I mean, a lot of you guys are so good with your hands, your mechanics, your construction, whatever the case may be. But there are, newbies out there who have never handled something like this. And, it does seem like I'm probably making it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. But I think that for those people, it's beneficial. And for those who have experience with this, you can just gloss over all that stuff. At this point, all that's left on this side is this little piece here and this little piece here. I think I've covered enough here that I don't need to sit here and add those little pieces, but I'm going to do you the level of showing you what this looks like done. I'm going to speed up the film. I'm going to finish this install and you can, gather from the sped up film how I complete this body. Okay, time to regroup. Here it is, all done. It's a beauty. I hope the customer is happy with it. I do need to come back and, trim the Lexan back here like I talked about. Got a little bit of an overhang here, maybe a 32nd that I need to trim back on this side piece front edge. Again, that's just as simple as just taking a steady hand, giving it a little bit of a score, and then you can very easily, you saw me do the other trim back. Very easy to work with as long as you just take your time, be careful, be cognizant of the spots where it could tear easily, inside corners, things like that, areas that are thin. As always, if you have any questions about this process, please email me before you start your job. If you're having problems on the first piece, please email me before you continue the job. I will put my email address down in the description. Until next time, thank you for watching.